Good morning. We're working on Gem Wars. So everything is pretty much dialed in for the alpha right now. What we're going to do is add opponents that we can play. So for example, when I am playing the game on single player, and let me start the back end here. This sound that we're hearing, this will not be changeable, I don't think. This won't be something that's unlockable. That'll just be what it is. But for the other sounds, wait for it to log in. Come on, come on. Give it just a second. There it is. And so now what we can do is we can play a game and so, ooh, still a little echoey. I think that's better. Okay, so this is now creating, and remember we have latency because of how everything is set up. So now the music that is playing is based on a set that I have set as selected for myself, as well as this avatar, as well as these. But we haven't done the blocks yet, so that's as far as we've gotten. So we want to make it so that if you were to play an opponent, and right here we're failing because we don't have an opponent yet that we've created on the back end. So on the back end, let me show you what we've created. We have a entity in Entity Framework called it's a scriptable object of a opponent. And it's got an audio set, an avatar set, and an audio set. It doesn't have a board or anything because it's only for single player. And then a number of instances where it's a game player. So where we're reading in this opponent, we're adding in here the opponent SOID for if they're a game player. So now what I want to do is I want to check the pipeline. So if I look at my controller for where we upload this, we should have something in here for a opponent, and we do, which has its properties already filled out, which is great. Now on the other side, when it's downloaded, that's here. So that's good. And so then on the game, if I look at my scripts for the opponent, here it is. It's got the audio sets and an avatar, a name, and a difficulty, and that's it. So when I do my exporter here, I should be exporting of type opponent, and I am here. So that's good to go. So that gets uploaded to the server. And then when it gets downloaded, it just gets sent over as a string. So that's fine. So now that we have this, I think it's time that we actually just create these things. So if I look at the pieces that make up an opponent, it's an audio set for the music, an audio set for the sound effects, and an image. Now, I wanted these opponents to be usable for single player or multiplayer, like if people drop out of the game, then one of these opponents would take their place. That's why it's got all three. So what I want to do is create all of these for each one of these avatars images. So in my title manager, I'm first going to add a temporary reference to my, just one second. I'm going to add a temporary reference here to my avatar set image SO called avatar set images. Okay. And I'm going to go down to this class that I have called a asset exporter, and we're going to uncomment it. And so in this one, I'm going to copy this create avatars, and this one is going to be create opponents. And this is going to be a number of avatar set image SO. As an array. So for each one of my avatars dot length, all I want to do here is create an instance of it, which is a opponent SO. And then we're going to set the music, the set, and the image, the difficulty, and the name. And we're just going to save these in scriptable objects called opponents. And then this is going to be my avatars of I dot name. And then at the end, we're going to save the asset. Okay. We also want to get the music. So if I look at my scriptable well, I don't want to get it from there. So we'll just do another one here where I'm going to have my audio object set music clip set music SO. And this is going to be the default music. And you also want to get, because everybody's going to have the same default music, right? And then the audio object set for the sound effects, I want to look here at my avatars.I dot you have an avatar set which has a set type. Perfect. We always want this to have the same default music. The difficulty we're going to set by each one of these. Same with the set sound effects. And the images is a avatars of I. And then we have to figure out a name here, which we're just going to leave as nothing. So for the name, I'm going to name that my avatars of I dot name. You could do it as the sprite dot name. And now what we want to do is we also want to pass in here the type of music. So audio object set sound effects. And we want to get the one you have a set type. So like this, we want to get the first or default one where the set type is equal to perfect. Okay, so you can add one here called set. And the difficulty for a human will be 0.5 F. Like that. And this is so.audioObject set sound effects. Okay, perfect. So a list will be 0.55 F. Humans are going to use mana drop. Qtilists will use a magic stick. Mobs are going to use we'll use magic crystal for that. Qtilists we can use as spellcaster. There was also book spells, but we'll use spellcaster. Demons, we can use otherworld. Dragons, I think I have one called Dragon Tier. Goblins, we can use Magic Cloud. Golems, I thought we had a good one for that called Stone Spell. Living Armor, we'll use this one called Time War. Orcs, we can use another one that sounded like the Magic Dust. Parasites, these are the ones we might want to change to be Otherworld, which means that demons would be Forest Demon. Okay. We have one for robots here. Which I can do it for Invocation. We have one for skeletons. I'll use the astral projection for that. For monsters, I hope I have another one that starts like the magic. Let's do this one as Cloud. And this one as Magic Explosion. Okay, we have the anime group, which we can do as Magic Crystal. So I'll change the mobs to be Magic Stick. The Dark Knights, we can make those, and this is the last one. Cemetery Bells. I like that. Let me look at this one more time. Spellcaster, Magic Forest, Demon, Dragon, Magic Explosion, Stone, Time War, Magic Dust, Otherworld, Invocation for the robots. Let's see if there's a different one. I don't think so. I think we like that one, okay? Magic Clown, Magic Crystal, Cemetery Bells. Okay, and so now here for the mobs, we're going to change these to be 0.45F. The demons, we can make them 0.7F. The dragons, we can make them 0.75F. The goblins, we can make them 0.45F. Golems can be 0.6F. Living Armor is 0.65F. Orcs will be the same as mobs, so 0.4. Parasites, we want to make those the hardest at 0.8F. Robots, will make those 0.65F. Skeletons, we'll make those 0.35F. Monsters will be 0.4F. Any of the anime groups will be 0.7F. We'll make those harder. And the Dark Knights will be 0.75F. Okay. Then we're going to create the database assets, okay? So now back over in the title manager, I'm going to do my asset exporter here. And this is called create opponents. And we're going to have a avatar set images, a default music, which is a audio object set music clip SO. No, music SO called default music. And then you have another one for the audio object set SFX SO for the SFX sets. Okay, now we're going to populate it. So in the title manager, we have these temporary things we've added. So we've got these avatar set images. You've got the default music set. And you've got the sound effects sets. Now we're going to populate this. Hey there, Tin May YT. How are you doing today? Tim May T. Or is that YouTube? How are you doing? Welcome to the channel. Something says it couldn't be read, but I think that's okay. Okay, so it is creating all of my assets right now. Give it just a second to finish. There it is. So now, if I look, here are all of my different opponents that we've created. When they're all populated with their sets and their difficulties were not recorded. Nope, they are. There they are. Okay. And so now that we have these, we can add these to my asset database here. And now we can delete them here. And from this create, and then in the asset explorer, oops, sorry, in the, yeah, this one, we're going to just comment out everything. Okay. And now we need to post those to my server. So let's run the back end. And then in Gem Wars on the title manager, I have my post set up here, and we'll run it. Come on. There we go. This is going to take just a minute. It's got 2005 objects that it's writing to my server, and remember there's high latency. We should see these scriptable objects here populate. And there we go. There's the post. We'll also go ahead and look at the save. This takes a while because it uploads a lot of images to S3, which is Amazon's like blob storage, if you will, if you're familiar with Azure. Anyway, it's got quite a bit of objects now in 2005 because there's like 400 different avatars. Come on. I know it's uploading all those things. It takes just a couple of minutes now. Need to wait for it to finish. You can kill this so we don't go crazy. There, you can still hear me though. Okay. So while this is running, we're going to take a look at in the mono behavior for a offline practice game. You create the player here, but you don't ever assign the opponent. So if I look at my practice UI script here, we're getting the opponent from the player VM inside of game player SO. So down here, we want to make a new function called a protected virtual void create opponent SO. Just something like that, right? There we go. Here's the opponent create requests. We can now look. Everything is set. Set all of them, and we map it. That looks good. The mapping is there. Let it finish up here. There it is, the save, and now everything is posted. Okay? So back over here now in our offline manager, when we're creating an opponent SO here, we're just going to select one randomly for now. So we're going to say to do create algorithm for offline selection of opponents. And what we're going to do is a scriptable object factory dot, and I should have a create opponent SO, create opponent random. Perfect. So inside of game player SO, if it is a computer, then we're setting the opponent, because this is offline. So this is online here, and then this is offline. So it is happening here on game player SO. So we don't need to do this. So it should already be going in offline mode. So let's try it. Backend is off. Start backend. We'll start it up here. Wait for it here to not get through. It's like something's still running on the back end. Oh, it's trying to post. So up here on the title, let's turn these off. Okay, play offline. Practice versus AI. Argument cannot be null. On player SO 24. So this is failing because it doesn't have any of the audio sound effects packs in here. So what we're going to say here is if I look at this, do you have one for default? So we're going to have one here called get audio set sound effects default SO. And I want to get the one where the is default. So if my player.player audio set sound effect DTOs dot any, then you want to do this. So we can make this a little bit more legible by taking this stuff out here. and then doing this and then this. Otherwise, we just want to set the SFX pack selected to the scriptable object factory dot get audio object sound effects set default. We'll try it again. Same line. It's failing at is local. Okay, let's attach it here. We have to open it in the other one. And we're going to go to Player SO. Take a look here and attach. And let's take a look and see what's happening. Okay, so my player packs does not equal to null, and there aren't any. So that's fine. We'll jump over here and kill the... Now it should work. What just happened here? Something didn't work, but I don't know what. Try it again. Should have thrown an error or something. Good, we got the one that we wanted. So you don't have that player selected yet. Okay, here we go. In create game, it failed. So the first thing was where we init the players on that. So practice, offline, create players. We want to say only the images and the sound effects do we care about? So in here, hey, Fallen Hope, how are you doing, man? Welcome to the channel. It's good to have you with us today. Now I've been watching since the start. I just started talking. No worries, man. How are you? Thank you for coming and hanging out today. So what we want to do here is we want to select the opponent. Because you're putting this on the player, not on the game player. Because these are the player items that are representative there. You're creating this from here. So you've already created the opponent. You create the opponent after you create the player. Amazon Prime Video is busted. I don't know if my ad guard preventing the DNS for the closed captioning, but I don't get CC and it's driving me bananas. I think that's what it could be, because I know that those things, they come with a lot of rules enabled, and you need to disable a bunch, if I remember correctly. Right. That should be better. So let me see. Your player type here is a computer. That could have been a big mistake. Weird. Practice game online, offline. You don't even need any of this, because it's online. One. So here now, we've said that this is a player, but computer, but we didn't add in the pieces. So if I go to where we look at create player, and this was failing because it never found a player that was local. So here, when we create the game, it's abstract. We run the init, which is here. Which creates the game players. So this is online. This is offline. My whistle is busted too, which is sad. Apparently with the latest Ubuntu kernel, it breaks everything. Oh man, that sucks. I'm sorry, dude. So, when I create the game player is where it selects the player type. So in this response, there's the opponent. Perfect. So this is your player SO. And so now you can do a player dot player VM dot, and we can set the music here. The set sound effects, the avatar set. So after we select the opponent, go back and create the player items for a computer player. So this is a new array of these things. And I'm just going to put in here one, which is my opponent.musicSO. Now this one's a DTO. So we're just going to make it manually. And we'll just add in the fields. So that's the ID. There is no instance ID. This is a GUID.parse. The ID is a GUID.newGUID. Is selected as true. Object type is a player item. Player item type is a music, and the object type is a player item. Almost the same thing, except for we're going to change it to SFX. And then the last one is the avatar set images. And in this, we're going to have the new one where we're going to have these properties. This one's the image. This one is sound effects. Okay, GUID here is a new GUID again. This is the GUID.parse of my opponent dot avatar set dot ID. So now we're going to move all this stuff here to a new method called protected virtual void set opponent. This creates the player items for the computer player. The player items for an online computer item are created on the server. Sorry, I heard some rustling there. Okay, now we'll try it again. Okay. If I look here one more time, I know exactly what I'm looking for. Second, where you set your opponent you also want to do a player.playerVM.playerDTO.username is equal to your opponent.username. We're going to say, should this have an algorithm for selecting an opponent by difficulty? And we'll add this as a to-do. Okay. So back in the game, we'll try it offline again. Now, when I'm creating my DTOs for my game player or my instances, we are including the opponent SOID. So let's go ahead and play offline and try it again. So we're failing now in the offline when we go to create game. Let's debug it. Play offline. Here we go. Now your player SO is getting set because you really need to move the opponent to player. Just a second. Currently, I have it connected on the back end to game player. Because fundamentally you have player as optional. So we're going to need to look even further back now. Because I think if If I look at a player, here we've created these game player human instances. Oh God. Okay, does everything build? We're gonna hack it. Okay, we're gonna make a quick commit here. And we're gonna say Gem Wars 31 and my time would be 40 minutes and my comment will be created opponents. We'll commit that out. Give it just a second. Okay, cool. And now we can push that out. So now we're going to hack it. So what I want to do is I'm going to move this player class into two classes. One called player AI and one called player human. We're going to make this an abstract class. These two fields go on human. Okay, game player human instances. If I look at my instances for game player, we're going to move the player ID into here and here. And now in my scriptable objects for opponent, we're going to remove that one. And this is now a concrete class. Good. And now your opponent might have a collection to a player AI called players AI. So this is game player instance. As a reference to player. Log APIs and log API errors players get moved to players human. So we've got player with these items and game player instances, with an AI player which has one opponent SO called opponent SO. So like that. Then here are your player items. Okay, that works. So in the code first context now, we've got none of those, but I've also got player human and player AI. This one goes away, but this one is just player, like that. Okay. So now when I look at the library, we have a player type. And now I have two more of these. I have player human DTO, and I have a player AI DTO. So in this one, you want to have a GUID for the opponent SOID. And then this one, you want to have it as a human. Like that. Like that, okay? So we're going to unload the services for now. And we're going to unload the BL and the Unity projects. And let's rebuild it. Cool. When you create your game players now, Okay, and if it's a computer, we can get rid of this one now. Because that goes on hold on. Because that gets created on the view model for player. I want to have a opponent SODTO called opponent SODTO. So this is just called create game player instances, which is not asynchronous any longer. We're going to make this create player human. In my mapper, I want to do these here to be a player AI create request to player AI DTO. Because the only difference is that it has that opponent ID, which we're putting in the view model. So I don't need any of this. Which means that in the DTOs here, I don't need to separate these. Okay, we're just cleaning up these errors here. Name player instance here. So in your game player instance now, we want this to definitely have a GUID here. and not one there. And up here, when we're doing the data access layer and we have a game player, no, I just want player, DTO, sorry. Like that. Almost done here. Just one more second. Okay, almost done with the error result resolutions here. Where did that go? Oh, it's just like that. There's no more asynchronous on it. That's right. Good. We want this to also be a player human and then a player AI. Okay, that's done. So now we're going to open up the BLL project, which is going to have a number of errors probably. Okay, like that. Okay, so that built. Let's load the Unity projects next. The first thing I want to fix is on my title manager where we submit this to HTTP. If it's offline, then we're going to set the player ID equal to GUID.empty. That's fine. So where we are creating our game players offline, player ID is nothing. So in your game player, I just want to get this player ID, and there is no more opponent on game player. You're going to have a new one called player AISO. And this one's going to have a protected opponent SO called opponent. When you do this, we're going to say is local is false. Now you can move this like that. And now, based upon the player items that are set in the VM, if you're offline, this is where you want to have your SO, DTO, and then your musics and your sets and your like that. Is that the only errors I have now? So here, when you're online, if your player VM.player DTO.player type is equal to computer, and up here, I want to switch on my player type like that. Just like that. Except for in this one, when I do this, I want to also add in here a opponent SO for the opponent. We're going to remove the isLocal here. And then I can just do a base.init of my player and then false. We can cut this out and then all of this up. And so here I'm going to change this to be player VM.opponent SODTO. This needs to be cast as one of these, like that. Okay. One more second. Like that. This one, when we're initting my game player, we can get rid of the opponent here and here. And on my player AISO, I can add that. So we'll set that equal to null. So if my opponent is not equal to null, then we want to do this. Otherwise, I want to set my opponent. This is just an odd opponent SO. So this is a scriptable object factory dot create opponent of my opponent dot ID. Cool. Okay, so let me just confirm what's happening here. When we create the players offline now, hey there, TrueSet72. How are you doing? Thank you for that follow. Appreciate that support. If you have any questions what I'm working on, please don't hesitate to pop them into the chat. What you doing? I'm working on a game called Gem Wars. There's a demo of it available up at pixelhorsestudios.com. Right now, we're just dialing in what we're adding something called an opponent for single player, which is a collection of different attributes. So here, the create players offline is initting my SO. But I thought somewhere in here you had said create object base game manager online, you're doing it. I look at my base game manager offline. That's fine. So this is a player AISO. And then we have this retroactively add this stuff. So I just want to say scriptable object factory dot create opponent random SO. So when this is happening here, I want to say my player dot opponent SODTO equals a new opponent SODTO. And we're going to add in these values. If I load up the game, it's probably going to, not yet, we need to rebuild the back end. So let's unload these for a second and reload everything else. Almost ready. Everything's building now. Is that really what I called it? Okay, so the build succeeded. So now this will reload with all the errors. So let me get rid of this. And then I'm going to say to Rob fix this. Cool, we got the new DLL, I thought. If I look at my opponent SODOO, oh, there it is the wrong one. And this is now going to be opponent dot music dot ID as a GUID dot parse. Like that. What am I passing in here? That doesn't seem right. Opponent SODTO here. But this will create an SO. Yeah, this is correct. Okay. And everything built. So when I try this offline again now, it's telling me that player never got set. Like that. So let's try it again. Okay, it mostly worked. It says unable to load type log client error player DTO required for deserialization. That's okay. Let's try it again. So it's still erroring. Good. We're going to attach it and try it again. Okay, this time when we create the game, we have two players. One that's an AISO. It's acting like everything started. Let me check that one more time. I bet I know where it's happening. No, I never got there. It did set the name. here, if I look, I should have somewhere like an error logger that I've written. Let's try it again. Here it is. Object not set to a reference. We'll try it again. So if your this dot player avatar sets images DTOs is equal to null or so it's happening with mine. So when I'm playing offline, and I create my player, I want to set my data cache dot player player VM dot this equals to a new array of 0. Well, that shouldn't matter because in the base UI script now, it'll just turn off the avatar. It'll just turn it off. Let's try it again. Same problem. whoops, does not equal to null and one more try. I think we got it this time. There we go. Now it's working correctly. Now when they play a piece, we should get their sound pack. Okay, so now when we're online, I'm going to update the database. Okay. I wanted to where we create the game, it's okay, we'll fix that in a second. I want to look at in the game when we are requesting a game single player. We have our player VMs here. Which is getting passed in here. And then this is where I want to create the opponent and all these pieces. And this will happen on the server. And here you want to create the computer player on the server. And this is where we're going to do our selection for the opponent. If I look at my database for this field, you're creating one, this is returning a random one. And in this one, we have this task of a opponent SODTO called read opponent SO random asynchronous. Which, if I look at that, has 3 parameters. And now I need to, on the server, create the player AI and player items. So this one is opponent. And then these are going to change too because the player is going to be defined. So let's go ahead and make a commit here. And we're going to say Gem Wars 31. My time will be 120 minutes. My comment will be split player, where this is actually only 60 minutes. Split player into player so into player AI and player human. Moved opponent to player AI. Let's stage that and commit all that out. So if you look at what we have to do here, we need to go inside of our data access layer, and we're going to now create the new player VM, which is what's going to be filled here. And with that, our multiplayer should be working the same as our single player. So thank you all for staying with me today. I'm out of time. I'll be back in the morning, though. We'll try to start as early as possible. Let's shoot for 5:30 a.m. If you have any questions, you can always throw them into the Discord, discord.pixelhorrorstudios.com, and I put all these videos up at youtube.pixelhorrorstudios.com. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye.